Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As is my custom here, first, I want to welcome my guests because I know that they're bringing a couple of precious stuff with them. Number one, it's their time. Ian, I thank you for coming. Your time is a precious commodity and very expensive. And I am privileged and honored that you're willing to spend some of it with me. The second aspect is your journey. I thank you so much from the bottom of my spirit that you have entrusted us and you felt within your heart to come here and to share and be one with us. Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your energy and your time. And thank you for what you're doing for the planet and all those that listen and watch your show. You're bringing real meaningful information and tangible tools for them and making a difference in their life. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much, sir. It is my honor. I want you to tell us, I want you to tell these folks that are listening about your creation because they know I believe that we are all creation. The life that they live today, I tell them, you created it. You are responsible for it. So you tell them what you have created so far, and we'll go back into your journey and break it down for them.
Well, today, and it's ironic that you use that, you walk down that line of consciousness of creativity, and it's the number one renewable resource on the planet. It's the most powerful renewable resource on the planet is human creativity. Yes. And we're built, as you said, off air, we're built to create.
Yes.
And we're built to take on the challenges that are around us and lighten the burden of our fellow man. And currently, my attempt to do that is to be the oldest man to play Division I college football in the United States and to go and compete against 20 and 21 and 22-year-olds and prove that at the age of 57, all things are possible.
Yes.
That comes from a desire to bring in awareness to the tragic fact that middle-aged men are 70% more likely to take their own life than any other segment of the population.
Wow.
It's also to be a catalyst to remind these men that although they may be going through a divorce, or maybe they lost their business in the pandemic, or maybe they just woke up one day and thought, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought my life was going to be. That's not the end of the story. That middle-age crisis doesn't have to be an end. It can be an opportunity, middle-age opportunity, and that we can take all the insight, wisdom, and talent that we've gained throughout the years, and we can apply it to do something special and make a dent in the universe.
I absolutely agree. I tell people the dark times, man, don't run from it because there's something inside of you that has been dormant for a long time. And this person, only shows up when it gets dark because that creator has been sitting there wanting to create for you and show you the greatness that is you. But you and I have been keeping him on the wraps because we are working, we are doing all of those things. And I think, and I believe that the pandemic came to begin to have us to reset in our, the human collective came and I believe we call this thing because it's giving people an opportunity to reset. It is a disease that of wisdom when you think about it. It separated us, and it has separated us so that you and I can focus about this creator that we have inside, because there's businesses in you, there's books in you, there is all kinds of pregnancy that is sitting inside of you, and because you and I were too busy, we missed it. And what it is saying is that I cannot allow these things to go on without giving birth. We gotta give birth. So I encourage them, and I try to encourage them. I said, the darkness, don't panic. Don't panic. You're about to create. Just let it. Just sit down. Listen to people like Ian and I that have gone through our darkness, and we understood what it was about, and we came out, and we got some news for you, man. So hang on, listen to us, buckle up. Ian, talk to us about your childhood. Here you are. You've been brought into this world I tell them, I said, we came out of love, and the human spirit is still seeking that love. So talk to us. You were born out of love. You came in. Your parents are now going to program you because they see the world a certain way. Talk to us about your program. What was your
Sure.
lifestyle like when you
Well,
came to your house?
I have an interesting childhood. We all have unique childhoods. Mine is unique as well. I was born in Iran, in
Mm-hmm.
Tehran, and I was smuggled out of Iran by the United States Air Force, by United States Air Force sergeant and his wife, who purchased me on the black market and brought me to the United
Wow.
States. An Iranian woman went into the hospital claiming to have a stomach ailment, although she was pregnant. My adopted mother went in and claimed to be pregnant, although she was not. The doctor made the switch in the hospital and then was remunerated for doing so with 2 cases of scotch, good
Wow.
scotch, in fact. And on paper, I'm a United States citizen born abroad. On paper, I'm as much as a United States citizen as anyone born in the United States. But that's not the truth. The truth is that
Yes.
I'm a Iranian or Persian, and I was child to these 2 white parents and brought to the United States. My adopted mother died when I was 5, and I found her as she had a heart attack. And then my
Mm-hmm.
adopted father left when I was about 13. And I lived in a number of different homes. And at the time, it was difficult, very difficult. Abuse, physical, emotional, and sexual, having sex with both men and women at the very young age of 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. It's very challenging
Wow.
for a young person. And life circumstances forged a intestinal fortitude and a find a way, make a way attitude. So there was
Mm-hmm.
tremendous benefits to the labyrinth of difficulties and challenges, and there was tremendous benefits to the fire of pain and anguish and difficulty that I went through. On the downside of that, it
Yeah.
also created some patterns of behavior and patterns of thinking and patterns of communication that didn't serve me well as I got older and as I moved into my middle age. And at some point, they began to weigh on me. And although we had been receiving awards all over the world for good work of schools and playgrounds and programs to lighten the burden of our fellow man, there was a voice inside of me that said I was unworthy and
Yeah.
that I was a piece of crap and that I had nothing. And it didn't matter how many keys to the city I was given. It didn't matter how many accolades from communities or organizations. There was still a voice in my head as I went back to the hotel room that said that I was not worthy. So on my 50th birthday, I walked downstairs and told my family that I was going to kill myself. Now, to put that in context, I had just been nominated by a community in Canada to the Prime Minister's Social Innovator of the Year award,
Wow.
to recognize for the good work that we had been doing. And yet I had no worth and I had no value and I was a nothing. And where did that come from? It came through the downsides of all of those life experiences as a child, patterns that I had not identified nor had I dealt with. And it
Yeah.
took me on a very dark journey. And so, like most, those patterns can serve us well or those patterns can hinder us. And once we see those patterns and recognize them, the good news is we can change them if they're no longer serving us well. And
Yeah.
that was the journey that I began in those dark times.
I love the fact that you went into the detail of it because I wanted you to, as you were sharing both of your accolades and the pain, and it is my hope that as people are listening to us, I've interviewed famous people, I've interviewed all people, and the story is that when we were young, something happened, and based on that incident, we then began to look and perceive the world. We gather these things that are able to help us when we're younger in the pain, help us to manage it. And we create these patterns and so forth to manage that. But then as we get older, those habits and those things we see are the very things that turn on us and bring us into this space where we begin to look at ourselves and go, wait a minute, and I tell people it doesn't matter what you achieve in life. I've interviewed millionaires that are, just were broken and all those things. All of that does not matter if you haven't get into your space and look at yourself because of the less than thoughts, the unworthiness. But we are great stuff. We are some good, precious stuff, man. So, talk to them because A lot of people are right there. Some of them, as you mentioned, have gone through and are in because of the pandemic. Men are looking at themselves. Women are looking at themselves. They've lost everything. Divorce, everything. Their world is crumbling. A job is gone. The house, the rent, all of the things are coming to you, and you're looking at yourself. The stats that you talked about, middle-aged men, is incredible. So that stat, looking at that stat and looking at the reality of what you went through, can you talk to us, because that is some painful space. Walk someone through to encourage them briefly while we just linger here a little as to some of those painful things and thoughts that they have allowed to become monsters and how it's garnered their life. Let's spend some time here and open this space and let them know. What you think is hopeless, there is hope. Go ahead.
I think that what happens is these life circumstances, situations, or even people
Yeah.
take away and rob from us the understanding of our precious nature.
Yeah.
We are rare and unique creatures with incredible talent and ability.
Yeah.
Over 70 billion people have lived on the planet, and there's nobody like Ken. There's
Yeah.
never been anybody like Ken, nor will there ever be anybody like Ken. And at
Endangered
our young,
species.
in
I tell them.
our youth, in our childhood, in our innocence, we know our rarity.
Yeah.
Most of us recognize our rarity as a kid. That's why we believe all things are possible as a kid. That's why we believe that all things are attainable as a kid. But then as life goes along, life works to rob us of that innocence.
Yeah.
We're told that our hair is not nice enough, our teeth aren't white enough, our car's not new enough, our grass isn't green enough. We're not enough. And yet we are enough.
Yeah.
We're rare and unique creatures.
Yeah.
We have all that's necessary to be highly successful. But as time goes along, circumstances, situations, and people begin to rob us of that understanding of our rarity and our uniqueness and our preciousness.
Yeah.
You think about it, 70 billion of a thing, and one that was rare and unique and unlike all of the others, the value of that would be priceless.
Yeah.
And when we return to this understanding that we're priceless, and so is every other human being that we interact with, we all of a sudden treat ourselves differently, and we treat those around us differently. So what I had to do was I had to return to that understanding of my rarity, my specialness, my uniqueness, and my priceless value. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm more valuable than you, because we're all rare and unique creatures.
Yes.
We have inherent value. It's not based on the amount in the bank account. It's not based on our performance. It's not based on anything external. Just by living and being alive, we are unique, special, and have unmeasurable value.
Yeah.
Well, once we put ourselves in that mindset, life changes. Our choices, our language, our decisions emanate from that space and that place of rarity and uniqueness. We're more cautious about the decisions that we make. We're more mindful of the things that we do. We're more mindful of the things that we say. Because when you realize your value and how precious you are, you then act like it.
Yes.
And that was the journey that I had to go on to return to the understanding that my performance didn't dictate my worth. Someone else's love for me did not dictate my worth. I had worth just by being alive.
Man, it's like listening to myself. I've been preaching the same thing to people, man. I tell them, I would tell them how rare, and you are talking exactly like me. I've said this for years. We are so special. Once there are organizations and businesses that are designed around how special we are, the retina, voice recognition, face recognition, all of these different things. You know why? Because we're all different. That's why they can use that. And once I die, my fingerprint, all of this thing, this oneness of who I am, the value of who I am. And you're absolutely right. Once I recognize my value, how in the world can I disvalue you? Because you are of the same material. You're the same value. And my conversation with you should be different. The way that I talk to you, the way that I hold your space is the same that I would hold my space. The same respect I give to me is the same respect I give to you, everything. And so this is this journey that we need to go through, and I had to go through mine and learn and visit the dark places in my life and in my thoughts and become victorious over them. Walk with us. Pick one of those things because here's a young man that has been through much and you talk about much. Talk about one of those values that are perceived opinion of someone else that you took upon yourself that you had to walk through to come out on the other side. The less than thoughts. You are no good.
I was told repeatedly that I was a piece of shit,
Wow.
that I'd never be anything or do anything with my life, that I was a horrible human being.
Wow.
I remember one time I came home and I had my report card. Now, to give it just some context, I had been ritualistically sexually abused from the time I was about 6 to I was about 9 by my stepmother and her daughter. And I was forced to have sex with her. I was forced to lay naked with her. I was forced to do things that no little boy should do or no little girl should do with an adult.
Mhm.
And somehow, miraculously, Ken, I came out of that. Somehow, I reestablished myself. By the time I was in 7th grade, I was on the city council or the student council.
Wow.
By the time I was in 7th grade, I was a star football player and ran track and did all these cool things. And I was kicking butt.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I came home and I had 3 A's and 2 B's. Now, to be clear, I was in special classes, emotionally handicapped, ADHD, all of those fancy letters that we put on kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I came home with 3 A's and 2 B's, which within the context of that young man, you would think, what an amazing performance.
Yeah.
And yet I was beaten for getting
Wow.
2 B's. And I remember saying out loud, I will never pass another class again.
Wow.
I'll show you. I'll never pass another class again. And I didn't. For my 8th grade year, my freshman year, my sophomore year in high school, I didn't. Even my junior year, I didn't pass a class. Purposely, intentionally.
Yeah, yeah.
Self-sabotaging, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so eventually there was coaches that came into my life that delivered a different message. And miraculously, I was able to earn 19 credits in 1.5 years and graduate from high school with my graduating
Wow.
class. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The point that I'm making is that the impression, the imprinting on me that I had no value, that I was unworthy, stuck with me. And then it was this constant drive. I can honestly say that, we've founded 3 schools. And I would say 2 of them were to try to, although life-changing, first of their kind, groundbreaking schools, probably down deep inside, they were an attempt for me to validate that I was worthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
makes sense.
I realized as time went along that I was doing that. And I knew that I had to change that because eventually that would cause issues. And so I began to research and I began to look at this whole concept of neuroplasticity and this whole idea that I could rewire my brain, that 85 to 90% of my behavior was unconscious. I was just doing it. It was based on the patterns of communication and patterns of thinking and patterns of behavior that were well established, as we've discussed. But I could change that. And that gave me hope. And so we started to work on.
Where did you find that, Ian? Who was it that came across your path? What article did you read? What was it that drove you?
I would say this. I would say that it wasn't a singular journey. It was a glimpse of, like an example.
Yeah.
Malcolm X changed.
Yes, he did.
As a kid, I remember reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And Malcolm X changed.
Yeah.
Prior to going to Mecca, he had a certain worldview. When he came back from Mecca, his worldview was different. Robert F. Kennedy changed.
Yeah.
And I started to see these men, and specifically men, who changed. And that there was something powerful about men who changed, who remade themselves. Later in life, I started to understand, because of my involvement in athletics, that I could train my body, that I could open up the neural pathways from my brain to my hand, and that I could learn a skill.
Yeah.
So then I thought to myself, well, if I can learn a skill, maybe I can change my patterns of thinking, not even understanding all of the research of neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
So to answer your question very directly, the universe brought me the information.
Yeah.
The universe, which has guided me and kept me and nurtured me through all of the time, brought the people, brought the circumstances and situations that opened up my mind to what the possibilities could be. From the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of time, the universe had a purpose and a destiny for me. Now, that's not unique to
Yes.
me. Each one of
Yes.
us has that.
Mm-hmm.
And so as life went along, there was all kinds of forces trying to stop me from reaching my potential.
Yes.
But the universe was true to its destiny that it put on my life. And so when necessary, it brought the person, or it brought the circumstance, or it brought the situation to give me what I needed, the tools, the information, so that I could continue forward on the journey to fulfill my purpose. I call it doing my job. I have a
Yeah.
job to do.
Yeah.
And once my job is done, another person's burden will be lightened.
Yeah.
So although it wasn't a singular moment in time, I could tell you each one of the steps where it started to become, I became first aware, and then it became a revelation, and then it
Yeah.
became a part of my being.
Yes. I think you've laid it out. And the reason why I pointed to that question, because I believe everything that you just said. I believe that when we are ready to begin, the breadcrumbs are there. And the breadcrumbs are coming, and it is bringing change. And it's on a micro level, but the changes are there. And the changes will manifest when we are ready, that person, because I believe as much as the universe, I believe we also are calling it in, because we're in this space where we're like, I want more, and the universe is listening. And so I think this dance is happening, even though sometimes we are not aware of it fully, but it's happening. And then one day, as you said, it becomes a revelation. And when it becomes a revelation, it is ours. We own it. Not a single soul can take it from us. Why? Because it is now a part of me. I have assimilated in it and all of its beauty into my being. You are 50 years old, as you said. You came down and you said, I want to end it. That space right there, because you have, until then, I'm listening to the conversation, you have accomplished much that the world would look and said, this man is happy. We're looking into these, man, he's awesome. I mean, look what he's doing and so forth. And from the outside, but I keep telling people we came here to live from the inside out, not from the outside in, because the outside from the other way, we know billionaires and millionaires are killing themselves and living some horrendous life. And we know those things are not true. So here you are. That's a serious statement to make. Powerful. You have others that are there in your space that are looking at this gentleman, and you made that statement. I know how you got there, but tell me, what made you, we know, talk to us about that space right there. I want to hear your story. Not talk to me about that space, because that is a powerful thing to do.
I couldn't live a duplicitous life anymore. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
be in front of a crowd of 5,000 or 6,000 people giving a talk and then go upstairs into the hotel room and beat myself up
Yeah.
and tell myself how horrible I was and curl up in a ball on the bed. I couldn't try to hold an image of how I had it all together when emotionally and my mental health was so challenged.
Yeah.
When I had thoughts and would berate myself regularly, emotionally and mentally. I couldn't continue this two pieces. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the horsepower to do it anymore, right? For the
Yeah.
longest time, I could pull it off. I could go into
Yeah.
my safe space. I could recharge my battery, and then I could go out. What
Yeah.
people didn't realize is I was this insecure introvert that was afraid of my own shadow, literally was fearful of walking into a room if I didn't know people.
Mm.
And yet I would stand in front of thousands of people on a stage,
Yeah.
primarily because it was the safest place in the room.
Yeah.
So I was ill-equipped for interpersonal relationships. I was ill-equipped to sustain anything over a period of time. I was ill-equipped to deal with the basic functions of the world. And yet I was equipped to do things that people would say was impossible,
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
done 7 things that have never been done before. So though that dichotomy of the two things, I couldn't do it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, it would be better if I was just gone. And then that was coupled with the people that around me that cared for me. I couldn't receive their love.
Mm.
I couldn't accept it because I didn't
Yeah.
love me.
Yes.
And so I was starved for love and starved for validation and starved for what I thought was the food that I needed. Just believe in me. Just tell me you love me. And I would long for those words to be said to me. And I now realize that that comes from inside of me. It doesn't
From
have to come
inside.
from outside of me.
Yeah.
So in that dark place, there was just too many rocks in my backpack. And I just quit. I just quit. I just said, enough. I can't do this anymore. The good news is that then took me on a journey because down deep inside, I didn't really want to die.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to live, but not like that.
Yes.
And so I started, and it wasn't a straight line, a trajectory of, oh, let's turn this thing around and it's going to be great. It was an up and down and over and under. And even today, still working through and having to set my mind every day and to kick that I call him a person, that individual that's no longer welcome in my brain anymore. I have to kick him out every day.
Yeah.
So that darkness, that loneliness, that feeling of isolation was just, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to be done. And the good news is that, and this is a quick story, Ken, you'll appreciate this. So I decided I'm going to kill myself. And it's just, I'm enough. I'm going to do it. But I don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? I should check myself into a behavioral health center.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to myself, I'll call. So I call the behavioral health center in my area. I'm suicidal. I don't want to live anymore. I need help. Okay, we can definitely help you. And then, of course, the first question they ask is, do you have insurance? That's the first question. Do you have insurance? So I was like, all of a sudden I went into business mode. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not exactly sure how much my insurance covers. Let me call my insurance company. So I called the insurance company. Hello, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I said, thinking of killing myself. So I'm thinking of checking into the behavioral health center. I need to know exactly what my coverage is. So the poor girl is stunned. And all of a sudden, my purpose on the planet comes to the forefront.
Yeah.
I can see that she's ill-equipped to deal with what I just laid at her feet.
Yeah.
And I said to her, young lady, I know this is a difficult phone call for you, and you didn't expect this when you took the next call in queue. I'm not going to take my life with you on the phone.
Mm.
All I need to know is what my coverage is so I can go check myself into the hospital. And I'm sorry to create this much stress for you.
Wow.
But it's not going to happen because I could feel it that she was panicked, right? So all of a sudden she puts me on hold. And then I think to myself, why are we putting this suicidal guy on hold? Like, what are we doing here? But listen to this, Ken. You talk about the universe moving.
Yeah.
All of a sudden there's this voice on the other line. Hi, we'll just use the name Barbara. I'm Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nurse here with such and such insurance company. I understand you're having a difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, I really am. We talked. She goes, do you have a plan? We talked about what I had planned and we had talked about some things. And she goes, why do you want to check yourself into the behavioral health center? I said, because this is what's going to happen. I'm going to gather the doctors together in a room. We're going to write up on the whiteboard the critical path to my success. We're going to lay out sequentially all the things that I need to do and what they need to do. And within a couple of hours, we're going to have a plan of action to get me on the right track and back doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I said. And she just said quietly, you don't want to die. I said, no. She said, how about this? I'm going to call you at the end of my shift if I have permission to do so. Can you stay safe between now and the end of my shift? I said, yes. She called me at the end of my shift. We talked. She said, can you stay safe till tomorrow morning when I can call you at 10 a.m. Eastern time? I said, yes. Ken, she called me every 12 hours for 5 days to walk with me, to get me stable. And she wasn't allowed to tell me her real name.
Yeah.
She saved my life. Nobody in my sphere of influence, nobody was equipped to help me. They didn't know what to do. Even my family didn't know what to do. A person I've never met, I'll never see, I'll never talk to again, set aside their life to call me every couple hours to just check in with me. So I didn't want to die, but I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And all I needed was somebody to say, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
You got this. I'll check in with you in a few more hours. You got this. And was the difference.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, that may not be the difference for everyone.
Yes.
And that may not be the solution for all. But for me,
Yeah.
just needed someone to walk with me for a few days so I could get my feet back underneath me. It was an incredible moment. And I'll never be able to repay her for what she did. And she showed me love and care. And she showed that I had worth and I had value, that she would stop her life for a
Mm-hmm.
person that she didn't know. And really, that's what this football thing is, Ken.
Yeah.
This football thing is me putting my life on hold to go try to play college football, training 2 and 3 times a day. My body hurts, bro. Let me just tell you that right
Yeah.
now. My body hurts. But it's for a man I've never met, I'll never see, and I'll never talk to.
Yeah.
Who feels like life is hopeless, that his debt's too high, that he'll never have a relationship again, and then he'll never be able to rebuild his life. And then he'll see the TV and say, what? Some crazy old man's playing college football? Look at that guy. Look at him. Well, if he can do that, I can overcome my challenges. That's really the simplicity of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's powerful in its way, man. And I am honored that you were able to share that. So here you are, this stranger came into your space and rescued you, began to usher you the love, the care, the things that you were seeking. So walk with us from that space right there. Now you're beginning to get on your feet. What were and I always say this to a person before they move. I said, what is your statement of faith? What is the business people put it as their mission statement. The thing that you believe in, because the mission statement is what drives the company, what pushes them to do certain. What was your statement of faith when you found yourself right there? What did you say to yourself? Because once you make that statement of faith, you then take the corresponding action to bring it to pass. What did you say to this man right there? And what actions did you do to bring you to where you are today?
I had to first do the triage necessary to stabilize the patient.
Yep.
So to some degree, I kind of stepped out of myself and said, I got to do the triage. We got to get this guy stable.
Yeah.
And the formula that I'm about to lay out to you, Ken, I'm not going to say I recommend it for everyone, just to be clear. To be clear. The first thing I had to do was look at my circumstances and situation. And what I came to find was the relationship that I was in, I could no longer stay in because there had been too much damage done. I had created too much pain. And because I had created so much pain, that individual wasn't going to give me the space to change.
Yeah.
They weren't going to give me the space to remake my life. Yeah. So I had to remove myself from that situation because I wouldn't be able to change and grow if somebody only saw me as I was and made me a prisoner of that. Right.
Yes.
So I had, and it's going to sound bad, but I had to divorce that situation, even though I was the one that created the pain.
Yes.
But I would never have been able to survive if I stayed there because they would have only seen me as I was, not what I could be.
Yes.
So that was an important step. The next step was that I had to, and to be clear, I tried to make some changes, and it didn't happen right away. And that's an important thing for your listeners to hear. It didn't happen right away.
Yes.
It took time. It took a business failure here, a project failure there for me to realize, oh, wait a minute. These surface changes that I'm making aren't doing it. I need to make radical change in who I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I had to strip it down to the bone, and I had to repattern all that I was doing, starting with the morning, every morning waking up and reprogramming my brain every morning. I had to change my physicality and get myself in shape. I had to change the way I ate. So I had to change all my lifestyle if I was going to get a different result. And so that's what I went about doing, was changing lifestyle, changing physicality, changing mental mindset, changing. And in doing the change, I started to see the results and started to create momentum. But it was not an easy journey. And it's, part of this world record idea was about saving myself, not just not just saving others. The world record attempt forced me to be disciplined. It forced me to change my lifestyle. It forced me to take my daily regime and adjust them. It forced me to do those things. And so it was a complete and total behavioral change and lifestyle change that was necessary. And that's what created the momentum to move things forward.
I tell people this life, once anyone is interested in personal development, that's what it is, development. It is not, they tend to believe, I guess, because of our Western civilization programming and the fast food chain type of mentality, that they expect it to happen overnight. How is that possible? I don't know. It is impossible to do. And so because of that, that expectation creates this tension within themselves that they then circle back and start talking to themselves saying, you're worthless, you're no good, because that expectation of this thing should happen like instantaneously is ridiculous. And for those that are listening, please do not do that, because it is not possible, number one. So once we have gone with that, then we allow ourselves the room, the space, because you're going to have to learn to forgive yourself in this space right here. You're going to gotta learn how to love yourself in this space. You're going to make steps back, but you're driven to change. And Leon is talking about it. He laid it out. You have to make some hard calls, guys. You're going to have to make some hard calls. You're going to have to look at the rawness of the situation. I tell people, you have to stop dating people's potential and start dating the person. You got to look at yourself and started dating the person, not all this stuff that you think you are. Work on the thing that you are today and be present in your experience. Be present, because that's where the joy, the flavor comes back. You will learn, and I keep telling, enlightenment means that you are beginning, you have the privilege and the honor to begin to become a better student. I look at myself as a student, and because I am a student, that means I'm in class every single day until I give up this form that I'm walking around. I'm in class. And that makes me exciting, because I'm going to learn new things. And so but you have to give yourself the space to adjust to the harsh and the rough decisions and the rough plays, as they say, that you have to make, that people are going to look at you and they're going to make judgment on you. But you have to look at yourself and say, no, this is for me. You're going to have to learn how to make boundaries here. You're going to have to learn, and I keep telling people, boundaries are there to protect you in many cases. They're there to usher you, give you peace, rest, and all of these things. You have to learn about that. Get into your space, man, because it is a precious place. And once you begin to move from there, beyond, this is where you start learning about love, man. To be honest, this is where you truly start learning about love, is when you start to have that with yourself and start looking at yourself and looking and say, you know what, man, you're not perfect, but I love you. We're going places. I'm curious to see who you are, and having these conversations with yourself. And this expectation, Ian, I've seen it discourage people, because how in the world, it took you years to do what you did. Why would you put that pressure on yourself to try to make this happen within 2 months, 3 months? It takes years to do that, and it will continue.
I also would just add, and that's tremendous wisdom, Ken. If you're listening and you know someone that's trying to change, then I would encourage you to heed the words of Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
If we see someone as they are today, we imprison them in the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If someone looks at you and says, I want to change, and then every time they behave in a way that's somewhere close to the behavior that they want to change, and you turn at them and look and say, well, see, you're never going to change. You're not helping them. That doesn't help them. You've got to give them space to change.
Yeah.
And we know that the 85 to 90% of our behavior that's unconscious isn't going to change overnight. It takes work.
Yep.
So if you
Yes.
know someone that is looking at you and saying, I want to change, give them space to change. See what
Yeah.
they could be, and they'll have a greater likelihood of what they should be.
Yeah.
And I can't overemphasize that we have to give
Yeah.
people space. The baby, when it learns how to walk, falls down 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I believe that it gets back up eagerly is because we all cheer the attempt. So when
Yes.
people are attempting to change, cheer the attempt. Yeah, but they lied to me. Cheer the attempt. Yeah, but they cheated on me. Cheer the attempt. Yeah, but they're a
Yeah.
scumbag. Cheer the attempt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no hope for them changing.
Yeah. You gotta step out of their lack of understanding, if you wish, or even that person haven't get a revelation about themselves. Because as we learn about empathy, how to empathize with ourselves, I can look at you, man, and in your space, and when you are going through things and whatever, I can empathize with you because you're not there yet, but you are moving to there. You have a vision. And any corporation, they're never there. They have this vision. Write it down. Write down the vision, because when you write it down, it gives you an opportunity to check in and check in and see where you're at. What's going on? How far have I moved? What direction am I going? Where am I lacking? Where am I strength? You're watching all this dance, but you got to write it down. It is a guidepost by which you can then go back and look at. And people talk about their journals and all of these different tools that they utilize. Writing it down is just another tool, but it is there to help you to look back and make decisions and changes and adjustments and those type things. This journey is not easy, but it is the most rewarding thing you will ever do in this lifetime, because it will take you through, it will introduce you to you, and then you will get a chance to introduce you to others. And that is some beautiful stuff. So talk to me, Ian, when you came out, you finally came up and you can breathe some air and you can look at this guy. You can just pull your jacket a little and you go, yeah, I am at a place. And we never 100% there, but you're at a place where we love ourselves some more. We hug ourselves some more. Talk to me about that.
I think that for me, that moment or those moments are when I stumble but don't berate myself.
Yes.
When I fail and don't shame myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to a place now where I realize my value has nothing to do with my performance. It has nothing to do with the accolades. It has nothing to do with any of that. I have value. And I also have come to the place where I can love.
Yeah.
Where I can love. I can love you. I can love
Mm-hmm.
the human being that happens to be in front of me at any real time and ask
Yeah.
nothing in return, because I'm at a place where I can love me and I'm comfortable with me. And I realize that I am a complex individual and that there are some incredible assets, and I've also got some liabilities, and I'm good with that. I'm comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think what's been the most powerful exercise is the vulnerability and the transparency of just being true to my story.
Yeah.
And not trying to position it or hide some of the things that I mentioned to you today and mentioned to your audience today. The fact of the matter is that I had sex with a man as a child. I don't need to hide that. I don't need to be embarrassed by that. I need to be ashamed of that. I can speak openly about that. And so I think that when I pop my shirt and I brush my shoulder like the kids do, you know, and say I'm all that, you know, I'm all that, is when I actually, when I fail and I look in the mirror and go, yeah, all right, man, no big deal. We got this. And I know that I'm good with me, with the universe. I'm good. And then finally, I can actually enjoy a relationship. I can actually be a friend. I can actually be kind and loving to somebody for no other reason than to be kind and loving to them, which I was so afraid of, that interpersonal intimacy in the past. And now I'm no longer afraid of it, and I can revel in the richness and the fullness of a friendship or a loving relationship.
It is powerful stuff. It's a totally different lifestyle. Those of you guys that are listening to us, there's this theme that I know Ian has mentioned a couple of times. I want to stop here a little and just talk about it because they trained us to believe that our value has to do with performance, especially men. We have to be the head of the house. You have to perform to do this. You have to do this. And this whole universal programming that we receive, that our value is based on output from something that we do. It is a lie, a 100% lie. As you stated, it has nothing to do with who you are and your value. And we put so much of it. I have been there where I put all, when I was out of work because of something happened. I remember a corporation went south and everything, my world became nothing because my job was, my performance was everything. And then is when you have to look at yourself and find some value somewhere else. Do not believe that lie. It destroys men when we have lost our income and a business because we are tied into that. It means that that's who you are. Your status is based on that. That is not true. You want to see a real man? Take a look at Ian Hill that is looking at me. That's a man that is able to be honest with his own self. He is honest with him, who he is. That, Mr., is power. And so we want to introduce you to you. And that is all we can do. We can have these conversations and then it is his hope and my hope and our desire that is deepest of all is to introduce you to the value of you. The job is not anything, but you can find another source, but you are that valuable person, one of a kind. You are an endangered species. You will never exist in this realm ever again. And because you are that, the job is not who you are. It is simply some place that you get some income from. And as you embark on your journey, you will find out who you are, and you can, from your journey, you can even live a life to sustain you out of that journey. We invite you to come on your journey and get free from all of this garbage. Isn't that the truth, man? When you get inside and love yourself,
Yeah,
the journey.
I think that once we embrace the idea that success is not a moment in time, which is
Yes.
so prevalent in Western society that all of a sudden one day I'm going to make it and I'm not going to have to do anything after that. But when we realize that this thing is ongoing and that it's every day,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it all makes sense. Oh, I'm going to continue to grow till my last breath. Okay,
Yes.
well that's cool.
Yeah.
Changes the dynamic. And so the journey that you speak of can only be enjoyed when we change our mindset,
Yes.
when we change our approach and we change our view of it all. I'm not on a quest to get a moment in time and then all of a sudden everything's going to be great. Instead, I'm on a long journey and I'm going to enjoy each step along the path, whether it's uphill or downhill or sideways or over. I'm going to continue to enjoy the steps of the journey. And it changes. Once we make that change in our perspective, the journey becomes a lot more enjoyable.
A lot more. And it's flavor. I tell them the air, the wind, everything becomes tasteful, everything. And it is a place of joy internally. Ian, I want to thank you for coming, Threads, man. I know we just touched the surface, but this conversation has been a precious good one, man. I needed this. Thank you so much, sir, for coming to Threads of Enlightenment and sharing all of you with us.
Thank you for having me, Ken, and thank you for what you're doing for your listeners and for all of us and being a beacon of hope and a beacon of light.
Thank you, sir.